Good morning, I'm Sandy Halliday. Thank you very much for the kind invitation to initiate the debate on such a contemporary subject at this Architecture and Design Scotland-led event on rural futures. The idea of 20-minute neighbourhoods emerged from the concept of urban ecology. And urban ecology is an attempt to live within the limits of one planet whilst respecting other species. It has an acceptance that globally more people now live in urban environments than rural ones. Humankind is predominantly an urban species. Urban ecology identifies clearly that we will not have a sustainable world without sustainable cities that have a disproportionate adverse impact. They occupy 2% of land, but use 75% of the world's resources and generate 85% of its waste. Please bear with me. Because there's a defeatism, if not a downright deceit, inherent in the concept of urban ecology. Almost 50% of humankind still lives in rural environments, and development theorists have spent decades, if not centuries, trying to prevent the global migration of people to cities, in the certain knowledge that urbanisation merely accentuates ill health, resource depletion, pollution, biodiversity loss, and inequality, and that we really cannot have a sustainable world without a sustainable periphery, a sustainable rural environment. So 20-minute neighbourhoods is really a mitigation strategy, an attempt to release pressure on the rural hinterland that has to support unsustainable cities. What does a 20-minute neighbourhood offer? Well, in an urban context, they infer an ability to socialise, work, care, hang out, grow food, educate and air one's children, and to access healthcare, shops, food, entertainment and play, to exchange goods and barter skills within a short distance. An 800-metre radius, easily traversed by most people using low-impact travel, cycle, bike, scooter, etc. The consequence is to significantly reduce the energy impacts associated with transport, to provide the social cohesion, and to allow money to circulate in the local environment, and to add value locally. They are a vital component of a just transition to a healthy, fair, low-carbon, one-planet society. Some aspects are very familiar to some rural environments, but some not at all. There are numerous examples. Early ones include Shaftesbury, which is now 30 years old, low-rise, high-density housing on the periphery of a site with shops, care and housing, Prisma, a solar island, kindergarten, offices, shops and housing. Sprayfelt is supported by policy measures like the 30% rule and Calcbrighter, an aim at one planet living. The most recent of these are new community-led initiatives about making places through local governments, sharing and involvement of local people. The towns of Vauban and Tübingen have taken the concept to the regional policy level since the Loreto Quarter began development in the early 90s. All embrace the provision of easily accessible public transport to further afield when desired or required because edges are interesting and the gene pool needs consideration. They are all examples of a transition to a just circular economy that is a huge shift away from the direction that Scotland has taken in the last 30 years. I make no apology for mentioning suburbia, because this was rural until recently. We have houses in the sea of tarmac with two-car dependency, no place to hang out, no health centre, community or allotments, and just a supermarket at the bottom of the road, extracting wealth from the community and paying minimum wage to its employees, exporting the costs of distribution and recycling to the community, and it involves the car-based school run and the long commute. There is something self-evident about most of the 20-minute neighbourhoods. They don't infer self-sufficiency or autonomy, simply a shift of mindset from a movement of people to movement of resources to people. They provide bakeries but not wheat, cafes but not coffee, and, of course, the lower the density, the harder the task of providing nurseries and schools. It's worth remembering, if we're discussing carbon, that the current focus in the built environment on net zero is the direct carbon from the construction process and the in-life carbon, mainly energy and heat. Only 8% is regulated. But if we are to address this seriously, then it is clear that we need to address other aspects. These include the 18% which we contribute to personal transport, 13% of our footprint is waste and consuming, and 23% is our food. So the concept of 20-minute places has a huge amount to offer where it addresses these aspects. But how do we take what is essentially an uber defensive urban strategy and turn it into a creative means of cultural and environmental transition in rural environments, which have, after all, other pressures? Recent price shocks mean that any change thinking might embrace asking, as Chapman does in Fuel's Paradise, not how can we get more energy and at what cost, but how much energy do we actually need? If the impacts of energy use are adverse balance of payments and environmental risk, then we should be intensely mindful of its use. Road and path improvements, interconnected bus transport, getting transport to run frequently on time is essential. Enhanced commitment to developing local skills, locally owned energy rather than subsidised diesel, more attention to growing of local food, and a significant improvement in IT infrastructure. Densification, using waste from one process as an input to another. Home improvements to reduce long-term dependency make infinitely more sense than more oil fields, nuclear power stations and gas pipelines. Growing our building materials, straw bales, hemp, light earth and unfired bricks are more competitive building materials than steel and concrete when the price correlates directly with embodied energy and climate impact. I'm not sure that all of it is possible, and the constraints of 800 metres may well be very unrealistic, but certainly looking at a framework for enhancing life quality through energy mindfulness appears to have substantial potential benefits. And our recent COVID experience highlights that many of our needs can be satisfied using less transport. A desire for life quality is resonating due to a dawning realisation that our economic system is not socially or environmentally benign. Our lives may still be suboptimal, but we have sniffed an opportunity for change. And perhaps 20-minute neighbourhoods is part of that change. Thank you very much.